Hey, so this is a Chiron video. Chiron is the wounded asteroid or where we need to heal. Before I jump into that, thank you guys so much for listening, for subscribing, for coming to my channel. If you're not yet subscribe because I guarantee if you're really into astrology and you really know it, or you want to know it, you want to learn, I guarantee you'll find at least one video of mine that you like. I try to be very, very thorough, but I can't be as thorough all the time because, my videos would be 4 hours long and we can't do that, right? Thank you guys for your support. If you drop a comment, I will respond. If you go to any of my videos, I respond to my comments, especially if you have positive intentions. If you have positive intentions, I will definitely respond. If you don't, I'll respond as well. It's gonna be a little bit different. Just all right. So I'm just gonna jump in. So Chiron is in Greek mythology. Chiron was said to be a teacher and a healer, but he could heal everybody, but he could not heal himself. And so sometimes with your Chiron sign, you'll see that it's certain traits that you have, or the way in which you might be able to heal other people or give to other people, but you can't give that same quality to your own life. And it said that Chiron sits between, the asteroid Chiron sits between Saturn and Uranus. So we have the planet of harsh lessons and karma, and we have the planet of sporadic change and disruption. So that makes sense. It is nest right there. For some people, it's more traumatic situations. For some people, it's just more something that's a blockage and something that you need to release. I think the difference between Chiron and planets is a planet kind of tells you what you might be like Mars and Aries. Okay, you might take on action like this. Moon and Gemini, the way in which you might interpret your emotions is like this. It's more personalized to your personality or traits and things of that nature. Whereas Chiron is speaking on actual potential experiences. Now, I'm not saying the other planets kind of do that too. Like, oh, if you're Venus in Cancer, you probably experience blah, 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 blah. But Chiron is more so, it's a specific direction it went in. You see what I'm saying? Chiron is just, this is what happened. Maybe when you were younger, this is what you need to heal. There's not as much complexity to it unless you had a really complex situation. So I do want to say that for some people, you actually have real situations that happened that were traumatic. And for some people, your Chiron might have not been that, intense. So let's go. The way I'm going to do this, I'm going to explain it, and then I'm going to give a suggestion. I'm going to explain it and give a suggestion. That way I maximize the time of this video. I will have timestamps as well. Okay, so if your Chiron is in Aries or first house, you know me. Sometimes, and I know we can do this. I want us to be careful not saying, we can't say the first house is Aries, even though if I was doing an astrological wheel, Aries would be first, right? But Mars is there, right? So if someone had Mars in a sign there, I'm not going to start incorporating Aries energy in that, right? So I want to be careful that I don't always like to say that the first house is the same as Aries, because it's really not. But for this video, I will do that. And if you have questions, you message me or something like that. Okay. But we can make that connection. For this video, let's go. Chiron and Aries, first house. Independence was stripped. You didn't have the opportunity to be independent. You were immature. You might feel in some area of your life you're underdeveloped. There's an area of your life that you're not really confident about. There's a failure to grow up. And that could be through your own undertaking or maybe your experiences with the home or family. In some extreme places, yes, you could see Chiron and Aries parent who coddled their kid, didn't give them a chance to be independent. And so now they don't know how to. And though all parents want to give to their children, even if you're an adult, I don't think there's anything wrong if you work hard for your parent to help you out if you need it, or to help. Some parents pay for a wedding or pay for a down payment or a house or things like that. If you have it, a lot of people want to see their children succeed even when they're adults. But if your child doesn't have the ability to be independent and live on their own, that actually stunts their development. Because what happens when you're gone? They're not going to know how to manage that money that you left them. Or if you didn't leave them any money, but you coddled them their whole life, they don't really know how to do the things that other adults may do. So Chiron in Aries, or if your child is even Chiron in Aries, looking at how they handle the independence, because there might be a bit of a blockage. Past situations, you were denied the ability to act in your own self-interest. If everything is always done for you, or if you have to do what other people are telling you to do, you don't know how to make decisions that make you necessarily happy. You might have a burning desire to take control over your life. You might feel like you've gotten stuck into a situation where you're like, wait, am I living my life or is someone else telling me what to do? And just not feeling that you're fully independent and able to kind of take life on the way that you want. Afraid to take risks. Afraid to do things that would release you and make you free. Afraid of freedom. Afraid of having to do things that require courage. Might be Chiron in Aries or Chiron in the first house. If your Chiron is in the first house, well, you need to also look at the sign. You know what I mean? You need to look. So if your Chiron's in the first house in Gemini, you gotta look at both. Now, a quick tip. Again, guys, I don't want a 4-hour video. Quick tip is, I would say, to start Chiron. Again, we're trying to heal. You can't heal something overnight. But what you can start doing is doing something that makes you happy, that has nothing to do with anyone else's expectations of you. It's not about your work. It's not about your boss. It's not about your mom. It's not about your dad. It's not even about your partner. Do something that has nothing to do with anyone else. What is it that you want to do? It's not hurt anybody? Great. So do it. Right? What is something that you haven't been able to do? Because what you're doing, you have to build up confidence. And again, everything is building blocks. I can't make a video telling you how to transform your life overnight. It's not. Even when people manifest, you have to go with the process. But I think one thing that Chiron and Aries folks, people can start doing is find something that you want to do that you've never been able to do that would make you happy. For some people, it's taking a class. For some people, it might be taking a road trip by yourself and kind of overcoming those fears of not having someone kind of controlling what's going on. Whatever it is that you want to do, try it. You know, then you'll start to build up that confidence of being able to make your own decisions in more important aspects of your life. Chiron and Taurus. Okay. Chiron and Taurus. Okay. If your Chiron is in Taurus, the second house. So if your Chiron is in the second house, again, you need to look at the timestamp for the actual sign. I think the sign is the place you want to start first, guys. The sign, not the house necessarily. Stability, there's an issue with stability. Potentially either emotionally or physically. Most likely physically. Taurus is more the physical resources, but it could mean like there was just a lack of something, or like there was a lot of, instead of Taurus being calm, because Taurus energy should be calm, but if your Chiron is there, you might not have experienced that. You might feel like you're constantly replaced in a situation where you didn't know if you would have access to resources, access to safety. In some extremes, it could be a person who grew up with like not a lot of money. And so because of that, you become either a workaholic or you don't believe it's possible. So that's the thing you have to understand with astrology is like, even with readings, I could do a reading for a Pisces sun with, a lot of different other things in their chart. And I could do some for someone with Pisces energy all the way. And I can give them kind of completely different readings. I guess some things might be similar, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm telling you this side or that side. This is the possibilities for Chiron and Taurus. You didn't feel safe for some reason. You didn't feel like you had enough. You didn't feel like, you were, had the things that you needed. Perhaps in life, you didn't feel that you were given any type of ability to build resources. It could feel like you weren't given the tools. Remember, Taurus is about tools. Something about you didn't feel like you have the tools in order to feel like you feel comfortable. So Chiron and Taurus, folks, it usually has something to do with feeling a blockage of resources, a blockage of money, a blockage of feeling you have a foundation. Never quite feeling like you know where you stand. Never quite feeling like you know where you are. You have to feel like you don't always have access to understanding where you're headed sometimes. Like, it's just this kind of feeling of like, I don't know what my foundation is. Perhaps for some people, because you weren't given one when you were younger. For some people, it could also just be like, you don't know your own value. Anytime there's Taurus, anytime someone has Taurus in their chart, you have to look at, what do you value, right? You have to look at that. What do you value? Do you value yourself? Not knowing your own value. So the thing is, if I don't know what I value in life, I'm not going to have a foundation. If I don't value being successful, if I don't value being resourceful, if I don't value being myself, well, then that's not going to happen. So with Taurus, Chiron and Taurus, folks, you're here to work to create what wasn't given to you. And if something wasn't given to you, you weren't given structure. You weren't given space to feel protected. And again, doesn't mean you had a horrible childhood. I want to stop that. Doesn't mean you had a horrible childhood, but there was something you weren't given. So now you're out in the world and you're like, I don't know. And I'm just giving examples. I'm not saying it's you. I don't know. Someone might say, I don't know what love looks like because I've always seen it in a different way. So I wasn't given the resource. Now I'm out in the world and I don't know my own value because I don't know what it looks like. Or someone might say, I didn't have a lot growing up, so Now I work so hard to have material things, but I don't know my own value, because Taurus isn't just about money, guys. It's about value. Because remember, Taurus rules the five senses. So Taurus always is about the self-value and the self sense of being in calm, because it's ruled by Venus. So what I'll say for Chiron and Taurus folks, it's work to create what wasn't given to you. If you don't have a foundation for something, you have to create it. Taurus is the master builder. You have to build that up, okay? What it wasn't given to you, you have to kind of store your resource. And yes, it's going to be a slow process. Taurus energy is a slow process. I get it. I have Taurus in North Node and Midheaven. It might feel like a slow process, but you have to work to create what wasn't given to you. So whatever it is you feel is missing from your life, you're like, I didn't get that when I was younger. I didn't have that when I was younger. I didn't see that. You have to work to create that. You're kind of starting up building your own way. Chiron and Gemini. Oh, don't I know? My Chiron is in Gemini. I could do a whole video on this. Just that one placement alone. Okay. So again, if your Chiron is in the third house, also look at the sign it's in. So go to that timestamp as well. I would maybe start there. If your Chiron is in the third house, you feel like there's a lack of voice. Maybe in childhood, you didn't speak up. You were shy. And I know that was in my experience. I was always a kid, like I knew a lot, but it was hard for me to express it. You know, I knew things, but it was like, I didn't have the confidence to, you know, when you're the kid in class, I'm not the one raising my hand all the time. There's a fear of, if I speak, I'm going to be wrong. You know, you feel like people won't listen to you. Maybe you had experience in your life where people shut you down, and when they shut you down, you stopped completely. That's how I am. Like when somebody stops. And again, like I'm, as an adult, the way I handle it might be differently, where I have places now where I have a voice. But if somebody like shuts me down, then I just shut down. Like, okay, well, if what I say doesn't matter, you know. Now again, that's not talking about like the arguing part of me, because you know I'm a Sag moon, Mercury and Leo, but I don't argue with people unless they start with me first. Usually, like I don't do that. I don't do that. But you know, fire energy can't stop. But my thing is like, you know, we felt like so long like people won't listen to us. People experiences where people are shutting our voices down. People don't care about what we have to say, even if we know what we say has value. You know, you might have manifested to being shy, but the thing is that really who you are? Because I have very distinct opinions, but what I had to learn to do was speak up more. But I still don't speak in every situation because it's not necessary. So you have to look at the rest of your chart. So for instance, I have Mercury and Leo in the 12th house. So already my Mercury's in a house that overthinks and has sometimes trouble in the moment saying what they want to say. That's why sometimes some of us are better with writing. Like I'm much better sometimes in writing to somebody than I am in verbally expressing what I want to say. Like I can verbally express what I want to say all the time. I definitely can, but it's going to come out way better when I've had time to think about what I want to say. But then I had to look at my third house. My third house is ruled by Saturn and Pluto is in my third house in Scorpio. So wait, I do know things because that's really intense energy in the house of information. So once I started putting myself in spaces, so now I'm giving y'all the tips. The spaces that you put yourself in are going to be important for raising your voice. Don't put yourself consistently in places where people don't respect you. When you start putting yourself in spaces where those people respect you, then you can practice using your voice, and then you're going to feel more comfortable doing it anywhere. I'm proof. I'm a Chiron in Gemini. Mine's in the 10th house as well, right? But I do YouTube videos now. But it took me a long time to get to this point because I didn't believe that people want to hear what I have to say, even though I know what I have to say matters. Like, that's what I'm saying. You have to start doing things and practicing things. You don't have to do a YouTube, but start practicing speaking up, you know, for yourself, or start speaking what you know, right? The information that you have is important, Chiron and Gemini. So start speaking that. Build your confidence up by believing that what you have to say has value. All right. Chiron in Cancer. All right, if your Chiron is in Cancer, there's something dealing with emotional blockage in the past. You might have felt maybe you were told not to be emotional. You weren't shown how to be emotional. You weren't nurtured in some way. I want to be careful. I'm not saying your parents did not nurture you. So I want to be careful, but I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is there was something that wasn't fully developed in your emotional center of releasing your emotions, right? And again, I don't think sometimes you always have to have a Chiron in a placement to vibe well with this energy. Because I can understand some people might have the same experience even if their Chiron's not in a Cancer. Because we aren't really taught how to deal with our emotions in this society. Emotions are perceived as weak. Because people don't ever want to talk about emotions through a positive lens of intuition is you're in touch with your emotion because you have to feel. Emotions is feeling. And when you're in touch with feeling and listening to what you're feeling instead of like, oh, this pen's here, that's as deep as it gets. No, like, we live in a very fact-based society, but emotions have a place as well. And they're not always what we deduce them to in society of like, oh, she's crying again, she's emotional. Like all of that really surface level stuff. But it's like, no, actually, your emotions can make you powerful if you listen to them. And if you see what they're trying to tell you. So if your Chiron is in Cancer, you might have missed out on something that could have given you emotional comfort. And it doesn't always mean that your parent didn't do a good job. That's not what I'm saying. It could simply mean there was something that was missing. Maybe by the time you were born, you were the first or the last child. And that order matters. And maybe there was something you feel like your sibling got that you didn't get. And it doesn't always mean you're mad at your parents. Like I'm going to do a generation video one day. The way in which different generations relate to their parents is interesting. I'm going to do a video on that one day because the way generations handle parents is very different. It's very different. Like I'm starting to see a big difference in the way generations like view their parents. It's like, you needed to be a god and you needed to be perfect. And some people are just like, listen, you had a roof over my head. You love me. That's good enough. So I'm going to do an astrology video on why I think that is. But anyway, you also might not feel like you belong in certain situations. Cancer could deal with belonging. So in the past, you might have felt an emotional reaction to that. People made you feel like you didn't belong. It might have been difficult for you to express how you cared for someone else because you wasn't taught to you, or you didn't have time to nurture it. You didn't have time to really feel those things. And what's happening now is you're missing out on meaningful relationships because you don't know how to center your emotions, or you've been taught that they were wrong, or you've been led to believe that, or in early life in some point. And it doesn't always mean your parents did something to you. It doesn't always mean that. Sometimes Chiron is just a accumulation of our experiences and how we chose to internalize them. And if I see that emotionless are meaningless, well, now I don't use them. Or now I don't understand how to foster those relationships of nurturing and care in my relationships because I didn't get that if I'm a Chiron in Cancer, 4th house, or person. Again, if you're a 4th house Cancer or Chiron, if your Chiron is in 4th house, go to the sign as well to see what I say, to see what resonates more. What I would say for you guys is listen more to what the emotion is really trying to tell you instead of believing it's not needed. When you feel something, you have to start, okay, I feel this. Why am I feeling this? Is it telling me something? Is it telling me something about myself? Because sometimes our emotional reactions to things are telling us something about ourselves that we need to listen to. If all of a sudden you feel jealous about something, why are you feeling jealous? Because sometimes that can be a hint that you're not doing what you need to do, right? If you're jealous because that person has X, Y, and Z and they have a car you want, are you working towards that car? What are you going to do? So start using emotions to kind of like build up what you really need. All right. Chiron and Leo. Okay, Chiron and Leo are the 5th house. You were made to feel bad about wanting attention or getting attention. Maybe bad attention was put on you. People paid attention to you for the wrong reasons. You hid who you were. You hid your expression. An example I can give that I've seen in a few charts. Chiron and Leo, especially if it's in like a 1st house or something, like if we're going deep with some people, it can be an example like a woman who, when she was a girl, she might have developed early and she got a lot of negative attention for that. And that carries on through your life. That's an example. Doesn't mean it was you, but that's an example I'm giving you that this is how things can manifest. It's going to manifest differently for everyone. So first we start here with what it means, and then we start to pinpoint what our personal experiences were. Okay. So you could have been made to feel bad about your talents or what you were good at. It wasn't encouraged. An example you could give is like people who back in the day, when the kids had to work on a farm. I'll give you an example. It's like a kid had to work in the family business, or you got 16 back in the day, like, the early days before kids had to go to school, and someone told someone like, no, you're not going to go sing out in a nightclub. You're coming home to help the family farm. But you couldn't. So your family told you couldn't live your dream. Your family told you couldn't do that. You couldn't express your talent. You had to work, or you had to do something for them. So you feel like you didn't have time to build that confidence in what you're really good at. So some of you might have forgotten to do what you're really good at. You don't do it anymore. Someone told you weren't good enough, or someone told you that you can't. it wasn't encouraged, because Leo energy needs encouragement. You know, it does need attention. It does need, yes, you're good, go keep doing it. And so it also just manifests for some people just not having a lot of confidence in in who you are. Leo was just in themselves. Leo was fixed. Leo's like, and again, you know me, I always tell about Leos, and Leo's one of my favorite signs or whatever. But and I have Leo in my chart, but it's hidden in the 12th house. It's a little bit different. But like Leo would be like, I'm here, I'm great, look at me. And sometimes Leo is great. Like I'm not even gonna say, like, not me, I'm not a Leo, but I think the Leo people who channel their talents want to project it. And that is why Leo gets attention sometimes. Yes, the sun rules Leo, but sometimes it's like this confidence of, here, I'm confident. And when people are confident, you do kind of look at them. It doesn't mean you always like them, but you look at them. When someone's confident, you're like, oh, what's good about you? So, but you don't have that because your Chiron is in Leo. So you're deterred from that. You were deterred from doing what you enjoyed. Your confidence was stunted. Someone told you weren't good, or you weren't this, or you weren't that. And the tip I would say for you guys is, what do you believe about yourself that's true? Like, what do you believe about yourself that you can't express? And for some of you, you might have to go back to that moment where people told you you couldn't, or you wouldn't, or you weren't. And you have to kind of, you know, again, this is Chiron, this is healing. We have to pull back and say, wait, why did I believe that about myself? Or I want to do this thing. Let me start back up. It doesn't matter what age you're at. If something is your talent and it's your skill, and someone told you you couldn't do it, or they didn't encourage you, start it again. Rediscover that love for what you are good at. Start doing things that make you feel good about yourself. For some of you, might be starting with just taking care of yourself physically. For some people, you might get your confidence back by taking care of yourself physically, and then people are going to start, you know what I mean? So again, that's why I say a lot of things depend on the person, but definitely with Chiron and Leo, it's about expression, and it was stunted, or you didn't get that confidence. You didn't get that boost of, like, you might have been jealous of other people, might have been jealous. You might have been jealous of them. Oh, that person's so good at that, I'm going to stop doing it. And you stop doing it, but you don't know what you could have been good at if you had continued. All right. Chiron in Virgo. So if your Chiron is in Virgo, again, if you're still at this video, Chiron in Virgo or Chiron in 6. If you're in 6th house, go to the sign as well. I would start from the sign and then look at the house. Your Chiron is in Virgo, you know, there's some issues around being self-conscious to the point where you don't necessarily believe that what you're doing or who you are is good enough. There's this fear. And again, that's why with this house, I do think it's important what house it's in. I would definitely look at what house it's in as well, because where is it? What area of your life do you not feel good enough? So if your Chiron is in Virgo in the 4th house, you might not feel good enough around your family. If your Chiron is in Virgo in the 3rd house, you might not have felt good enough in school. So it really depends on where the house is as well. But you doubt even your intellect, maybe. You might doubt what you know. You're afraid to express what you know. You're afraid to express, afraid to express what it is that you understand. You don't do that. You know, there's, you know, you might have a lot of hidden things that you're not showing people. You're scrutinized for little things. You know, you might feel like you were never good enough. You may be told that, or you manifest that in yourself. There's a fear of inadequacy. Okay. What you did was wrong or ineffective. Okay. So, you know, it's really important that you understand those things. You might have been teased. Maybe your self-consciousness comes from being teased or feeling or being humiliated or being targeted. Virgo, we're talking about specifics. Someone targeted you for something specific about yourself, and you're made to feel bad about who you are. So now you carry this with you wherever you go. You feel ineffective. You feel ineffective. You feel wrong. You feel like you're not good. You're never going to measure up. Now, for some of you, for some of you, we might not even see it, because you might still try really hard. You might try really hard to still give people, this kind of, service and spirit of Virgo. You might still positively, right? You know what I mean? Like you big up other people and how effective they are, because again, the other side of Chiron is you're the healer, right? You show people this, but you don't really have it, right? But what I would say for you guys is you really need to ask yourself, whose rules or whose standards are you living by? If you don't feel you feel ineffective, you don't feel good enough, whose standards and who are they? A lot of times people put standards on us, and then if we look at their life, it's a mess. Or we look at their life and they don't have the things we have. And by have, I don't really mean material objects all the time. You know, it could be material objects that you worked for, But sometimes people will judge you and say things about you, but you look at their life and they're not living right. So you have to, Chiron and Virgo, you have to start asking yourself, like, whose standards am I living by that I feel ineffective or I don't feel good enough, right? Because what you're trying to do is you need to build up your own ability. You have to look in your earth, if it's a Chiron and Virgo, look at evidence of how effective you are. Because it's coming up into an emotion. But if you start looking at evidence and looking at yourself, like, no, you are good enough. You just did this thing nobody else did. Yes, you are good enough because everybody judging you doesn't have what you have, but you've worked towards it. But somehow you still feel ineffective around these people. You also stay away from situations that are directly targeting you or make you feel bad about yourself. If the reason why you feel the way you feel is because of people that you grew up around, or, you might have to distance yourself from some of these people in order to really feel your best self, Okay, Chiron and Libra. Okay, so if you're still with me, Chiron and Libra. Okay, so if your Chiron is in Libra or the 7th house, again, look at the house. Look at the sign. If your Chiron is in 7th house, with this, it's kind of weird what I've seen with this sign. Like, there can be differences with discord and conflict, right? It's weird. So it's like, for some people, I've seen like they were introduced in early life to conflict, a lot of drama, a lot of messiness. But again, you have to look at the whole chart, because again, what I saw, so some people that have Chiron and Libra, but they have Mars somewhere aspecting or something, if you have maybe Mars square Saturn, or you have Mars in the 4th house, but then you have Chiron and Libra in the same house, or Chiron and Libra and Mars in the 4th house. Well, now we're talking about you grew up around family drama. So it's hard for you to know what it looks like to collaborate with someone, because what we experience when we're younger can become our truth as adults, right? Even when we don't get it, if we don't get it, you start saying, wait a minute, a lot of people reenact their parents' relationship in their relationships, or they're drawn to people. So you're arguing all day long in your relationship and you think that's normal because that's what you grew up around, right? So we do have to understand that you're more willing to accept certain things that you've seen in your childhood if you've seen it, even if it's positive, or even if it's negative or doesn't serve you. So for some folks, it's like you grew up around discord, or you have a hard time joining up with someone else in a way in which you cooperate because you haven't seen that. And so sometimes some people, especially I've seen people that have Venus, like a Venus square to something, and if they have Chiron and Libra and other things in their chart, it can be like they have trouble in their personal relationships where there's a lot of drama because you want to come out on top, or you grew up seeing that somebody has to win the argument. For some folks, it's being overly compliant. So that's why I say with astrology, that's why we look at the whole chart. That's why you get your chart interpreted, because I'm going to tell you what it could mean, but we can't see what it does mean until you get, you do those things. But sometimes some people just have a hard time like reciprocating, or you're giving too much. You can see the flip side of this. A person who grew up seeing so much conflict that they're really docile in their relationships because they've seen too much. They've seen too much drama and they just want to get peace. But then you're not really willing to, you don't understand that there's a balance that needs to happen, right? You can't be too compliant in a relationship to the point where your needs are not met because you're afraid of seeing drama or conflict. By default, some people see conflict as a way of figuring something out. Like, some people literally think that, like, well, we're going to argue it out and then we're going to come out with an idea. And sometimes, I think arguing or debating is needed sometimes in some situations where people, sometimes the truth comes out through those types of harsher conversations. But now you're unaware of how reciprocation works. So you're either too dominant, or you're not dominant and you don't have enough, you don't stand up enough for yourself. So you're like, Chiron's in Libra in 7th house. You're here to learn. So you already give to others probably, but you have to learn how to reciprocate, right? Here's what I mean. I mean, like, by give to others, it's like some of you are too compliant and some of you are maybe conflict kind of finds you. It's hard to find peace. What I would say is reciprocation is going to be really important to learning that. And being in relationships, I think communication is going to be huge for Chiron and Libra folks. You're going to have to, because you need to sense out the situations you're getting yourself into first, people, work, whatever, and see if it's a match. So when you're Chiron and Libra, I think it makes more sense for you guys to really communicate, over communicate, because more than likely when people are fighting, it's because they didn't come to the table together anyway to say, this is what I think, this is what you think. Okay, let's see where we are. When people are arguing and fighting, it's because somebody thinks they have more power, or both people are trying to get power from the other person. And usually it doesn't work, right? And so what you guys are learning is this kind of looking at both perspectives. So before you guys enter relationships, before you guys enter contracts, even before you guys enter a work environment, you need to see if it's a match. I'm getting this, you're getting this. And just, you have to kind of just learn to analyze those situations better, really read the situation a little bit better, and not allow any type of tip of the balance, as we say a lot with Libra energy. Okay, Scorpio. If your Scorpio is in the 8th house, you can watch this, but also go to the sign as well to see what resonates, what, works. Fear of intimacy. You could show the dedication or, loyalty through your actions, but there's a fear of intimacy. There's a fear of being vulnerable. For some people, it is a really deep hurt or trauma that may have happened in life. But for some folks, it's simply just you don't see the benefit of being vulnerable, or you don't understand you're not willing to let go. Your fear is losing power. And you might have had deep situations in past life. Not past life. We're not talking about the North Node, South Node. Past in your early life, where you saw what happens if somebody gives in too easily, either through your own experience or someone trusts too easily, or your parents maybe, or someone around you. You're like, well, when they did that, that didn't work. You might say like, oh, well, my mom tried to take my dad back. That didn't work. That didn't work at all. So why would I, relationships don't work. Or, you might have an over preoccupation with power and your fear of losing your own power, your fear of not being able to control yourself. And that way you overcompensate by hiding or holding things close to yourself, being uber private, not entering intimate relationships because you don't want to feel, what does it feel like to really give? Because Scorpio and 8th house energy is about joining with someone else. You are giving into power because you're joining up. That's why it's intimacy and also joint assets, 8th house. So either way, you're joining with someone else. So when someone fears that, it means you don't want to join with someone else in a real deep, intense way. There's a fear of, if I do that, I'm going to lose my power. Okay. But at the same time, some of you might, you face it on head on. You help others through their difficulty maybe, but you don't really want to get that deep. And I think the tip for some of you guys may be, you're really uncovering the depth of things. What really scares you? Like, no. Don't just say, I don't like it. What scares you? What are you afraid you're going to find? What are you afraid you're going to see? Because you have to, Chiron rules this energy. This is Scorpio. It lacks the Scorpio ability to really perceive and be perceptive, because Scorpio energy is very perceptive and very about their gut instincts. So when you have Chiron and Scorpio, there's a blockage of that ability, unless you already have Scorpio in the chart. But you really have to ask yourself, what are you afraid of finding? And what are you afraid of happening? Go deep in within yourself. And then you have to pull out the answer, because you have to start to learn who's your enemy and who's not your enemy. Because you can't go through life thinking everybody is against you, everybody is suspect, everybody is suspicious, nothing. Because then you're going to miss out on so many different opportunities or relationships that could have been built, because you view everybody on the same level, because you're afraid to lose your power. And when people are afraid to lose their power, they don't even see when people are working with them. They don't even see that. So it's really important for you to see with what you're hiding or withholding from others and in your intimate relationship, is it worth it? Right? Is what you're hiding worth it? Right? Would it relieve you if you let go of some of that? And really start to examine the situations you're in before deciding to, fear of losing power, that fear, I can't, go that deep by relationships. It sometimes can be even friendships too. Like this, sometimes there can be a complete distrust of others. Again, Chiron and Scorpio folks, go check the house as well. So if you're Chiron and Scorpio is in the 2nd house, go check the 2nd house video. Timestamp. Chiron and Sagittarius folks, or Chiron in 9th house, it has something to do with your belief systems. Usually it's the belief systems or your ability to feel that you're able to experience. So it could be like a lack of experience, feel like you're not able to experience the world or things the way you want, but also limited in your beliefs. So this could be the person who's raised to believe something and you don't believe that, but you can't upset your family. right? And it, you know, a lot of times I make the example of religion, but it could be anything. It could be anything that you feel you have to believe, but you don't agree with it. But you have for a long time probably internalized this as your truth. So Chiron and Sagittarius folks, a lot of times you're trying to, in this world, trying to figure out your own truth. What do you believe? And sometimes certain transits in your chart will start to bring those things to the surface. What you believe may not sometimes be accepted. What you believe may not always be accepted. So you're trying to navigate and work through that. You know, the truth is you're living someone else's truth. You've been taught to do that, or you've been shown that's the way, and you don't really agree with that, but you feel trapped because you maybe haven't spent a lot of time thinking about what you believe, or you're limited in your experiences. You don't allow yourself to experience and expand beyond what you were taught and what you were brought up as, or what you were immersed in. So now you feel limited in your ability to understand things on a more global or a more massive level, because you're stuck in someone else's truth. So you guys have to immerse yourself in your own truth. And how do you do that? Well, the answer is in the 9th house, journey. You have to start going on journeys. Now, sometimes I say 9th house can be mental as well, because remember, it's linked to higher education and higher learning. So it's not always long-term travel, which the 9th house is known for, but it is what you need it to be. If it is travel, if it is go out and do something you've never done before. Now, the thing with Sagittarius, it's not about Aries. It's not like go out and do something fun. 9th house is about purpose and intention and the thought process and what you're gaining. What type of experience are you gaining? So you guys have to go out and find your own truth. You have to go find like-minded people. You guys need to go visit places that are going to give you some sense of truth. You have to first realize what don't you agree with. And that's going to help you with your answer. If you were raised to believe a certain religion, or certain belief system, or maybe you were raised to believe certain beliefs about people who are different than you, you need to stop and ask yourself, like, why don't I agree with that? And then you start to get to your truth. You see what I'm saying? When something doesn't sit right with you, start asking yourself, wait, stop. I was taught this, but this, I don't agree with this, and that. And that's going to help you start to build up, well, wait, if I don't agree with that, that means I'm free to do this, or I'm free to do that, or I'm free to go, you know, I'm free to go to a magic shop. If you were raised in a very conservative household that thought that was bad work or devil's work or something like that, and now you start to free yourself, you're like, go to the magic shop. Go see a palm reader, right? You start to see that you have the freedom to do those things. We're getting to the last 3. And again, I might do a video later about how you can heal, like how you heal others. But I think it's first important for me to tell y'all what this is, because some people don't know what Chiron is. All right, Chiron and Capricorn and Chiron in 10th. You have issues with authority or success. A lot of y'all don't. You have issues with authority figures sometimes, or asserting your own authority. You know, or you might use it only as to gain. You might use it as you fear success on a massive level. You fear having responsibility. You fear your greatness. 10th house, Saturn ruled, right? Capricorn, ambition, success. You fear your greatness. And so sometimes you might put yourself in situations that are not challenging you, situations that don't build you up, situations that don't really move you to the point where you need to be, because there's a fear of that, right? You fear of success, a fear of actually, if I make it, then that means I actually have to do these things that, you know, successful people do. For some people also could feel like you weren't able to compete with someone in your life, an older sibling, a parent, you're in their shadow. If you're like the son or daughter of a famous person, you might feel like you're always in their shadow. So because of that, you sometimes numb your own abilities. Now, you don't think you can get to that point. So you're like, well, there's no point. I can't ever do what they're doing. Or you just feel that way about life in general, where you look at people who are above you and you say, I can't ever get to that point. I'm never going to get there. I'm just going to stay here where I am. But again, you started to manifest that into your life because you don't believe that you can do those things. First thing I would say for you guys, define your own success. Stop worrying about mom, dad, brother, sister, cousin, auntie, best friend, whoever, the guy at the job, the girl at the job, and really ask yourself, what is your vision of success? And so for you guys, it might even be important to write it down. What does success mean for you? Because it's not, for everybody, success isn't 5 mansions, 5 boats, a private island. For some people, it's like, I want Some people might want to own their own business. Some people might want to own 2 cars. Some people might buy a house in the country, and have passive income the rest of their life. Like, everyone's version of success does not have to be what you are sold. And so I think for you Chiron and Capricorn folks, it's first defining your own success, because you're constantly either trying to achieve someone else's vision or society's vision of success and reputation and status, or you're trying to follow in somebody else's footsteps. You know, you believe success has to be this massive thing. We are not here to be carbon copies of people, whether we're related to them or not, or whether we admire them or not. We can admire someone. But that doesn't mean we have to become them. We can admire what they did and we can be inspired by them, but you have to learn to have baby steps, because you're intimidated by success, because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to do that. I don't know how to do that. So you have to take baby steps and start to find little successes, places, and then define your own success in the end. All right. Chiron and Aquarius folks. For some of you, or Chiron in the 11th house, again, if you're Chiron in Aquarius, watch this, then go timestamp to the house that it's in. So if your Chiron is in Aquarius in the 1st house, go look to the 1st house that I'm in this video. If your Chiron is in the 11th house, you watch this if you want to, and then go to the sign, because I always say start with the sign first and then we go to the house. All right, so you might not feel that you fit in groups, and so that can manifest either as feeling awkward, feeling distanced from people, or fitting in, trying to fit in, trying too hard to fit in, because you were made to feel alien. And so you hid certain parts of yourself, perhaps when you were younger. And the sad part is when we hide certain parts of who we are when we're younger, because other young folks or people in our family don't understand that, we stunt ourselves. We can say who we are as a kid, not completely, because we're kids, we don't know real life, but whatever that energy you are as a kid, it's a foreshadow. If you're a kid that loves to read, if you're a kid that loves instruments, if you're a kid that's really physical and you like sports, if you're a kid that's really imaginative, like whatever those things are, giving you hints to what you should do when you're older, but we don't listen to them, and society tells us to stop having an imagination. Now, again, you don't want to be cut off from reality, because that's crazy. Because, like, here's what I mean. Like, I'm not going on a tangent, I promise. But, like, if you are too much in your imagination to the point where you can't even bring that out into the physical world to show people what you can do, then you're stuck. And then you can't really enjoy some of the physical life things that we have. You see what I'm saying? But with what happens was in Chiron and Aquarius, you were made to feel different or weird, either by people you were around, your family, your friends, your school, whoever, or you manifested yourself. Because I don't want Chiron to feel like your parents hurt you. That's not what I'm saying Chiron is, okay? For some people, yes, it started from the family. For some people, our experiences, we manifest things, right? The way we perceive things becomes our reality. So even as a kid, if your family wasn't really, if you're a very sensitive person, you might have took it too serious if somebody was teasing you, and you're like, oh, well, I'm not going to do this anymore. And then you've lost that part of yourself. You don't really know what your individuality is. If you're Chiron and Aquarius, sometimes you might have felt like you're trying to figure out, how am I different than the people? So you might be in a group and you might even feel accepted, but you still feel different because you're not expressing your differences. You're not doing the things that really speak to you, because Aquarius is a sign that deals with rebellion. Now, I always tell you, that doesn't mean go be a rebel unless that's what you do. But with Aquarius energy, it's about being outside the box. And by rebel, it means you are disrupting what is commonly accepted. You are disrupting that. You are disrupting what people tell you to be. You have to have that kind of, but again, you have direction. I want us to understand Aquarius energies. It's not just about, I'm weird and quirky. That's not what I mean, because Saturn also rules Aquarius, and so does Uranus. Those 2 planets have this influence. You can see it on Aquarius. So it's not just about not having a plan, but the point is Chiron and Aquarius, also, you just don't feel your connection to groups. Now, you can do that or you can be in it, but you don't feel it's real. Be in groups and networks that speak to what you really are on an ideological level. You're just hanging out with people because they were the popular people, or they're the cool people, or they're the people that, they're just the people that you feel you're going to fit in with. And now in adulthood, you're still doing this. That's going to lead to a lot of just unfulfilled feelings. You're going to always feel different. You're going to always feel unfulfilled. Doesn't matter how many people you hang out with, because you're not doing your own thing. You can stand out in groups, but you have to be in the right setting. That way you are able to actually build and grow and develop as who you really are supposed to be. If you have Chiron in Aquarius, well, yes, there's a, but the thing is that we don't want to just look at our Chiron place as the negative, because if your Chiron, let's say your Chiron is in Aquarius in 11th house or 4th house, and Aquarius rules your 4th house. Well, I mean, Aquarius is on the cusp of your 4th house. That's what I mean. If Aquarius is on the cusp of your 4th house, well, so that means you're supposed to still be doing Aquarius. Like, Aquarius has an influence in that house. So, right? Like you have to use this energy. It doesn't, it's not a negative. Once you overcome your Chiron, yes, you might always feel like you have to be conscious of, I used to be like that, man. I used to do this. But you also are coming to the point where you come into your own. You come to realize and recognize what's different about you, and you embrace that. Because guess what? Aquarius, I say this to North Node Aquarius people all the time. When you embrace what makes you different, other people will come to you. You won't have to worry about appeasing others. You won't have to worry about, man, I didn't fit in when I was younger, and now I join groups because I'm searching for something. But what you have is within you. You're an Aquarius fixed air sign. It's in you. You don't have to search outside yourself. Because, well, Aquarius does do work outside of themselves because they're a sign of groups and humanitarianism and bigger thinking of collectiveness on society. But it's in you, is what I'm trying to say. All right, Chiron and Pisces, folks. Okay. Ooh, for some of you, or 12th house. So again, if you're Chiron and Pisces, watch this and then go see the house that your Chiron is in. So if you're Chiron and Pisces in the 5th house, go to the Leo video. And again, this is not a personal reading, guys. So I do expect, like in videos, you guys got to connect the dots yourself, because a personal reading would tell you more about, what does it mean if your Chiron's in Pisces and you have other planets in other houses. Overindulgence perhaps in fantasy and delusion of, sometimes not being able to cope with things that may have happened. Since it's the most sensitive sign of the zodiac, there's something that does resonate maybe from childhood. Not being able to cope. So it can be some escapism, avoidance of certain things that you don't want to do, avoidance of reality, perpetually feeling like, you want to be somehow in a dream state. Like for some folks to the extreme, what I've seen, the extreme is someone who is into substance abuse. That's the extreme. I wouldn't say that has to be the case for Chiron and Pisces. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying because everyone responds to things differently. That's an extreme case. But what I'm saying with Chiron and Pisces is there's this disconnect between reality. Now, for some folks, you could say, well, wait a minute though. What if my Chiron is in Pisces, but it's in the 6th house? And this is what I'm talking about with charts. Somebody asked me if someone says that. Well, okay. If yours in the 6th house, it might be different. It might be a situation. There's still a fantasy element there. See, I'm saying the theme stays the same, but the story changes. Because now we're looking at it like, okay, well, so you might deny yourself, especially if they have other placements in the chart where it's all about earth signs. They might deny themselves their own imagination. They might deny themselves the spiritual aspect of themselves. They deny themselves in favor of, especially if they have Chiron in the 6th house and Pisces and they have a bunch of stuff in the 6th house, they overwork themselves. Every day they're busy. They have no time to indulge in their imagination. And so they're not inspired. You can have a person work hard every day, but they're not inspired. That's why you have those people making all this money and they leave their job. And we're all like, why'd you leave that job? You're making all that money. They're not happy. They're ignoring some part of their life. They're ignoring some part of their chart that needs more fulfillment on a spiritual fulfillment level. By spiritual, I don't just mean like spiritual, like stuff like candles and tarot cards stuff. Not always talking about that. But the spirit is just our ability to connect to our own sense of purpose in this world. Right? Whatever that is that you do. And so Chiron and Pisces, folks, there's avoidance of something. And again, I guess why I say you got to read the whole chart, because for some people, it's just an avoidance of reality, right? Avoidance of things that you have to do. And we don't realize that no matter how much imagination I have, I live in the physical 3D world. I have to do certain things. You want a house, you have to pay your mortgage. All right. You want money, you have to go to work. You want this, you have to do this. You want to be healthy? Well, yes, you have to go to that appointment. Like, it's all these things we have to do. So Chiron and Pisces on extreme could be an avoidance. And also some people's avoidance of reality are things they've faced in the past, right? It's, no, I'm going to stay here where I can create my own inner world. I don't need your world anymore. And I think sometimes that can be a beautiful energy, but not in Chiron, because Chiron's showing us we need to heal from this. What do I think you guys can do? Oh, also, I didn't say this in the Virgo video. I think there's a connection between the opposite signs, obviously. I think Chiron and Virgo, Chiron and Pisces folks, both of them may have felt situations where they were a caretaker of somebody. They had to take care of someone. That could be a thing too with Chiron and Pisces. Like, you didn't have chance to live your own dreams, or you had to put your dreams off on the side because you had to care for somebody else. And sometimes it's someone that you didn't have, like, it's not like a child parent thing. It could be like a parent or someone else, or maybe you took in your relatives' kids and now you have a new responsibility. I forgot to say that with Chiron and Virgo. Sometimes that could be a thing. But what can you guys do? Chiron and Pisces, 12th house folks, you have to ask yourself, does what you do support what you want, right? If we all know at our deepest core level what we really want from life, we all know what we want. What do we want? And so when we escape from situations, when we deny ourselves situations, if I deny what I want, and I hide, and I mean, if I think about this, I don't want to make this about me, but I'm giving you an example. If I've always wanted to inspire people with what I know, astrology and other things, I know other things besides astrology that I do in my actual career. But if I've always wanted to do that and I'm hiding it, well, I'm not aligned. It doesn't matter how much I'm living in my comfort zone. I'm not aligned. Right? If I'm only practicing what I do in private and nobody knows about it, but my real desire is to inspire people, I am not aligned. No matter how much spiritual stuff I do on my own, I am not aligned. So therefore, Chiron and Pisces folks, the way we start to heal, because again, this video isn't about how to heal yourself in 24 hours. This is not what this is, okay? Just what you're doing, your escapism or your daily activities or the way in which you're living your life. Does it support what you want and truly desire? If you want to inspire people, but you're waiting in the shadows for a perfect moment, then you're probably not where you really want to be. And so that's where I would start if I was Chiron and Pisces. So thank you so much for watching. Again, please like, if even like one thing resonated with you, please like and make sure that you're subscribed. Thank you for watching.